Yo, how are you, man? Nice to see your face. Man, I think I went in to make the record, the album, and 2 weeks of writing and lockdown happened and quarantine happened. And I ended up flying to Miami to move in with Camila and her parents. And I was there kind of like with her, and we were like learning how to cook and do laundry for the first time in our lives, which it sounds really stupid, but like, if you've been touring since you were 15 years old, it's something that you just never really got to do. It's life. We got to do life, and it was really, it was amazing. And there was definitely some panic though. I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to make this album in this type of situation, just because everything was scary, and we were watching the number go up on cases every day, and it was just like a really frightening time. And as time went on, stillness kind of started to set in, and I started journaling, and inside the journal I started writing this. It was just reflecting on my entire life, reflecting on everything that was going on in the world at the time, and I wonder this and I wonder that and I wonder this and I wonder that, and I just was writing that amongst all the other ideas. But I must have been like writing in a journal and calling my friends and family and speaking with Camila every night, conceptualizing life, realizing, not even technically realizing, that it was going to be my album and it was going to be these songs. I got to the studio and I had it. It was there. The fun part was next. It was just bang on some instruments and sing some melodies, and you have an album. Not to downplay all that stuff, but you know what I mean. Actually, I think it's like, it just was something that I had to start doing, because there was so much angst and thoughts happening inside of me. It didn't really have anywhere to go, and I just had to start reflecting every day. And it's funny, man, because I've now become really obsessed with it. I never learned how to like properly write handwriting as a kid, so I taught myself how to write in handwriting, and it's like become this really kind of meditative process. And it's crazy important to have this little book to vent inside of, and at the same time to have this little book to write down what you're grateful for, and to have this little book to just like get it out, and it fuels the music. Is a representation of what's going on internally, and if you can write it down like that, you're getting way ahead of the game, and at the same time you're honestly making yourself feel better as you do it. It's I guess like, where are you right now, by the way? Cool. Are you working from home, or I guess the studio? Yeah. I'm in Camila's house, actually, in LA too. Yeah, I mean, I've been up since like 6 this morning, so I usually get up pretty early, honestly, but I go to bed pretty early some nights, so I'm all right. How are you? I mean, how often do we decide to do that? Literally every single day, in every conversation we have. It's really hard, and I think that it's hard to know the right thing to say and the right thing to write about, but like the hardest thing is to be, it's really hard to be human, and like the thing that I feel like I learned in this process is like, you do not have to be an expert in the matters of the heart to write about it and to speak about it. You just have to morally know what's right and what's wrong, and stand behind that, and kind of just and move forward. Because I think like if everybody is waiting until they're a studied, knowledgeable person in every single subject before they say how they feel about things, then we have 10 people who are talking about things. You know what I mean? And I think it's not to say like just speak randomly, but I think that when it comes to what makes the heart hurt and makes the heart feel love, we all know, we're all human. We know what that feels like, and be confident and be strong in that. And I guess that's what I was trying to go with. I was just trying to go with that process the whole time, and even now, like just being on a call with you, like this is my first time doing interviews in like a year. And it's like, I really feel like after all the time off, I just want to be super human with you, and that's it, Well, you'd be fine. It's really an important thing, is like for people and everyone to kind of remember, like, the basics of what it is to be happy, and to be loved, and to love people, and to have people who support you, and to have, you know, a roof over your head. And like, I know it sounds like super woo woo to talk about all that stuff, but it is definitely what you I think a lot of people went down the path of thinking about during this time off. And it makes two things happen. It makes you realize, okay, damn, what I do is really special. I don't want to just let every day pass without this being very honest and sincere. And also, there's this whole other side of life that is insanely special, like learning how to do laundry is not so mundane and boring. Yeah, it's the best stuff, and it's so nice. It's so nice to hear you talk like that, because I think that, like, to be always hanging on the edge of a cliff of like, what happens to me if I go away, means that we've now associated ourselves with what we do. And the free, you really can give yourself a lot of freedom, and it's really, really hard. And I'm not coming from a place of like knowing everything. This is something I'm majorly working on and struggle with every day. You free yourself by being cool with yourself and loving yourself and being like, this is it. This is me. Like, when I close my eyes, even if I'm sleeping in a bed with somebody at night, it's just going to be me inside that head. It's just going to be me inside this body. And it's like, I gotta be there for myself. I have to have my own back. I have to love me. And if you can kind of get that down pat, and you can remind yourself, whether it's from journaling or it's just a practice you do every day, then you can start to really enjoy life, and I think a little bit more free of a way. And you know, I don't know. That's something I think that I've been thinking about. It sounds like you've been thinking about, and I'm sure others have them too. You know? No, it's absolutely one of the most personal records that I put out there, and always am I trying to be as real and as honest as possible, and always am I falling short because of the fear of what people are going to think about it. And this is a process, like, I think as an artist and just the person, is like, if you can understand that not everyone's going to love it, and it's going to resonate with some people, and it's really going to change some people's lives, and some people are going to be like, that's pretty meh, but you really love it and it changes your life, then that's real freedom, and that's real happiness, I think. And you know, it's just a process, and I feel like with this song, Wonder, I hope that people can feel that sense of, I've let go a little bit. I let the reins go a little bit. Even in the type of the way that it sonically sounds by the end, it kind of just sounds like a tornado and a storm are happening at the same time. And it's like, it's kind of what's been going on inside, you know? Pretty unruly, yeah. Oh, yeah, man. Don't even play a sappy rom-com in front of me, because that'll get me. I guess... I mean, I don't know. I guess when you're making an album, of one of the biggest things that's happening is you're just constantly reflecting on your life and trying to find the you're touching the nerves that are painful, you know. And sometimes you're touching the beautiful ones. But yeah, I wouldn't say that's the album that makes me cry. I'd say that it's just like a natural reflex to how insanely difficult and confusing and complex life is that makes me cry. It takes up a lot of the cry time, hugely. And I think that I went back and saw my sister after tour, and she's like 17 and cool and has a really cool music taste now, and she knows like so much stuff. And I was in the car and with her, and I was like, what are you listening to? And she put on the Beach Boys and Frankie Valli. Put on Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. And I was not only surprised that she was listening to that firstly, but then secondly, I was like, holy, this needs to happen again. This feeling is amazing. And a lot of the times throughout the album, I think you're going to feel that essence of what I got inspired by. I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. And yeah, I mean, there's a ton of brass on this album. I love the brass. I mean, I had the sickest musicians I've ever worked with in my life. Kid Harpoon and Nate Mercereau and Scott Harris. Like, the amount of instruments being played on this album and how it actually sounded, even like, if I objectively listen back to Wonder, not as a song that I've made, I'm like, damn, I think this sounds so good. And I don't mean that in a cocky way. I mean that in like, I really love this as a person. This is my taste. And I think this sounds so cool. And I think it sounds so amazing and beautiful. And I've always felt that about my music, but especially this time around, it surprised me. I was lucky to work with some like pretty badass musician angels, you know? So yeah, man, there's no rule, you know, and I really learned that this time around, because before I would have to basically be in the room with a Scott, who I write a lot with, and be like, what are we writing about? And then I realized all it takes is one word to inspire an entire idea. And sometimes you have zero ideas and you just start playing instruments. Um, this time around, a lot of the ideas started on my own in my condo, or at Camila's house. And it was just like me on the piano by myself and me messing around. It was really me having time to think and reflect. And all it takes is like one little chord progression or one lyric or one little melody to inspire a group of amazing writers and musicians. And they really took everything that I came in with, these little notepads of ideas, and they took it and helped me create this entire world. So I'm really proud of this one, man. I feel this one is on another level, because it personally makes me feel like another level, and that's kind of the only thing I have to base it off of. The takeaway's so correct, it's not even funny. And I really think that, you know, that is how the greatest art is made, is just coming at it from a very honest place and being like, I think this is really beautiful. And, you know, can I tell you a little story that I heard about that kind of changed my life with this album process? So there's this author, her name's Elizabeth Gilbert, and she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and amongst a lot of amazing other books. But she has this incredible TED Talk about your creative genius. And I do not quote me on this, because I'm probably saying it all wrong, but basically she talks about how in ancient Roman times or ancient Greek times, if there was a painter, and the painter was like painting great art, and they would go and bring it and show the public would say, oh, he has a genius, or she has a genius living in the walls. And it would basically mean that if you were to fail, you can't take all the blame, because there was a genius doing it. And if you were to succeed, you can't take all the fame and glory, because you had a genius living in your walls. And she talks about how step one, and the only step, is just showing up with like an open mind. And if it doesn't come, you know, your genius wasn't in the walls that day. And it freed me up so much. She talks about how there was a poet, and the poet would go for walks and hear poems coming like a roaring thunder, like the genius was coming, and she'd race back to her house. And one time she got back to her house, and she was just a touch too late, and she caught the poem by its tail, and she wrote the entire poem on her pad from bottom to top. And it was like this really amazing way of looking at creativity, which is like, show up, be open, and hope to God that there's a creative genius living in your walls, because if not, then you might not make anything today. Totally, man. I miss you, and I hope you're feeling good out there. And tons of love out to you, man. And everybody listening too. I think it's funny, like I never do these interviews, and it's always like me talking to you, and then I realize there's like thousands of people who listen to this, sometimes millions, and we never are just like, hey, what's up everyone who's listening? Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you guys are feeling okay, and I'm sending tons of love to you. And it's just important to do that now, I think. That'd be really great. See ya.